Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here with you. Kyle, it's been a couple weeks. Good to be back with you, though. And as we move here officially into June, we're a couple weeks pretty much in already. Not a ton has changed. Everything has kind of been the same across all fronts. So if you're a Yankee fan, that's pretty good. If you're a Met fan, I apologize, but it's kind of strange because, and we'll get more into this when we get to the Mets portion of it for me, but it kind of feels like maybe the month of June is kind of what the Mets needed. They're actually playing, albeit one game above 500 ball, but things have looked somewhat better for them, so I guess, all things considered, maybe there is a little bit of change going on in Queens, but nonetheless, in the grand scheme of it, though, nothing much has changed since we last talked on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll just say good morning. The Yankees are in first place. Feels great. Especially like we've mentioned a lot of times after last year. Everything's going well, and it feels like, honestly, right now, I know we're only 70 games in, but this current team has a great shot at making a run, where previous years you worried about a certain department. And I get it. There are still some worries with this team, but the best thing is they have Juan Soto, and I think they'll be very aggressive at the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and, I want to get into maybe a little bit of a storyline involving him here in just a second, mainly because you were at Yankee Stadium last weekend for two of the games against the Dodgers, and that was the first time really we had seen the Yankees without Juan Soto for, I wouldn't even call it a true extended period, but, you saw the offense probably have some of its biggest struggles really all season, and even then, I wouldn't go as far to say it was worrisome to me, because that's just the way baseball kind of operates, but, I mean, just you could tell, I think, having him in the lineup is just such a huge catalyst. I mean, we've talked about it before, but I think it was ever apparent against the Dodgers, last weekend.
Yeah, they were like 1 for 29 or 1 for 19 with runners in scoring position. Of course, I was at both of the losses. As soon as I leave town, they win. Since I left, they've won every game. And those two losses were their only losses in the month of June. So yeah, it just certainly seems like just his presence alone completely changes the lineup. And even like last night, I mean, they put up 11 runs and he walked twice, was hit by a pitch, and then had a single. He didn't like tear the cover off the ball.
Right.
But it still makes a difference, because then they have to pitch to Judge, especially if Volpe gets on too. They're not just going to walk 3 straight batters and load the bases with nobody out. So
Yeah.
pitchers are just, I mean, it's a tough lineup to navigate right now. And then with Stanton heating up again, it's like, whoa, watch out.
Yeah, you kind of teed up really nicely. I mean, 9-2 to open June for the Yankees, kind of solidify, at the very least, best team in the American League. I think I would go as to say best team in the major leagues right now, but I think that, there's certainly a debate maybe to be had between them and the Phillies as it stands right now. But, they get rolling here. Obviously, the main series kind of leading up through June and everything at this point, right, is, they sweep the Twins. They end up winning that series out in San Fran. Lose the series against the Dodgers, as you mentioned, right, Kyle? The only 2 losses of the month so far coming in that series. And then right now, they're looking to get a 4-game sweep of Kansas City. So it's been through the first, now 12 full days of June, as we're here on the 13th day on the podcast. It's all systems go. This is kind of, I don't know. It's weird because, like, we did talk about a ton here, obviously, in the past year or so about this kind of being a crossroads time for the Yankees, and at least right now, it appears as though they've made their path and they're sticking to it. It's going to be interesting. You bring up a good point because people have actually been talking about it a little bit now that as we kind of get into the summer here, the trade deadline. And I would imagine the Yankees are going to be aggressive, but, some have seen with Cashman a little bit more at the trade deadline than, say, in the offseason. Trade deadline, he tends to do more of the hole plugging, kind of, where the deficits are and kind of get those squared away with maybe not the whales, quote unquote, as we see in the offseason that he tends to do. It's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be some guys available. I don't know what the price tags are going to be on some. I know the one name that continuously, I think, pops up more in the general baseball sense, maybe not specifically the Yankees, is Jesus Luzardo. And if you're the Marlins, I would imagine you're going to be covering a pretty hefty price tag, for example, for him. It will be interesting because I think the Yankees' biggest contender in terms of trade deadline is going to come within their own division with Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that I think is going to be in the market for some bullpen help. I would imagine the Yankees will at least bring one more bullpen arm in at the deadline of sort. At least I would hope anyway, which is kind of crazy. But I have a stat for you, Kyle. Normally it's the other way around, but do you know where the Yankee bullpen, for as great as they have been collectively, the Yankee bullpen, where do they rank for strikeouts in Major League Baseball right now?
Yeah, it's not good. I think they were 22nd the other day. They might have dropped even more. Yeah, they're just not a swing and miss bullpen. I would say 24th.
Yeah, I 22nd was the number I
Yeah, so
had.
they haven't moved. Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, like I said, that being said, I would imagine they'll at least sniff around to see what's
they have to.
available. Yeah. Well, like I said, I think their biggest competition for bullpen market it's probably going to be in division with Baltimore.
Yeah, so
at this point.
they got rid of one cancer as I was on my way back from New York City, and that was Dennis Santana, who had
Yeah.
a 6-something ERA. And the next one that's got to go is Caleb Ferguson. The guy rarely has a clean inning. His ERA is above 5, and they have a lefty in Victor Gonzalez who gets a lot of ground balls. They don't need a guy that just also gives up hard contact. I think they can replace him with a better reliever at the deadline and just move on from him. He's had a long run here too, and he's not used in high leverage situations anymore because he blew so many games in April, including the one I was in Cleveland. So I just think there's ways to kind of tinker the bullpen, and it's crazy that Michael Tonkin has turned into one of the best relievers on the team. And of course, he doesn't have great swing and miss stuff either. But yeah, I just think there's little things they can do to improve the bullpen, even though they are third in the league with a 3.13 ERA.
Yeah. Shout out Matt Blake. Hey, speaking of that though, do want to mention before I get to I think the next part of this for the Yankees, Cody Poteet just out here. I don't know, is he the greatest Yankee pitcher of all time? Up for debate, but no. In all seriousness, has really done a great job here now coming in. I guess really a second stint now, obviously with the team this year, kind of doing the plug and play on the rotation side of things, and has looked really good for the most part. I believe he's now moved on to being 3-0. So good stuff for him. Unfortunately, his time at the big leagues may be coming to an end sooner than later, at least for this go around. But it'll be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. But it's always good to have those guys available to you if you need to turn to them. And Cody Poteet has certainly lived up to, I'd say, the expectation that he had to carry here the past few weeks in this rotation.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I feel more confident when he gets the ball than Nestor Cortez right now, and especially on the road. And with Nestor going today, I certainly don't feel how I felt last night going into last night's game. It's just, I don't know. Cody Poteet, his confidence level is super high, and he just throws strikes, and he lets people, put it in play. He only had 2 strikeouts last night, only had 1 against the Dodgers when I went, and that Dodgers lineup is very good. He threw 4.2 shutout innings. It's just great to see a more experienced, older guy who just kind of knows the league that, you just come in and throw strikes and usually good things happen. And that's why I like his mindset so much. And, obviously I want Garrett Cole, who I know we're going to get into more, back. But it's going to suck to see Cody Petit go down because he's done so well, and it's just good to know that they have depth this year, and if there's any more injuries, which we know there will be, that guy would probably be the first in line to come back.
Yeah. Before we get to those updates on guys, I did want to toss over to you, Kyle. We mentioned you were there at the stadium for a couple of games during the weekend. I know the results weren't what we were hoping for anyway, but what was it like first time at the stadium this year for you? What were the changes, if anything, that you saw from year to year? And then, at least in person, did you see any of the merchandise that caught the attention of social media everywhere?
Yeah, so first off, this felt like the playoff game last October, in terms of loudness during the game and just the amount of people. Obviously, Dodgers fans travel great. There was a lot of Dodgers fans. Just everywhere you went, though, line after line. I mean, I even got there 2 hours early on Saturday night. So no, I didn't get to see some of the merchandise because the stores were just, I mean, they're
Swamped.
wrapped around.
Yeah.
So I certainly wasn't going to wait in line. And as for the games, yeah, I mean, it's not how we wanted them to go. I would say Friday night's game was boring. I usually don't use that term for baseball because that's probably my favorite sport. Just no hits on either side. A lot of great pitching. I guess if you like pitching, that's great. And the Yankees had a runner in second in the 10th inning, no outs, and Trent Grisham can't get down a bunt, and then everything goes.
Sideways.
Yeah. And then Saturday, it was a game for 3 innings. Judge hits the game-tying home run in the third inning. I think, wow, we have a chance. And no, Nestor Cortez does what Nestor Cortez does. 36th round pick for a reason. I keep saying that because he was too good to be true. I mean, you look at his numbers, they're getting worse since last year. And yeah, the bullpen just did not look good. Tommy Kahnle gives up a grand slam. Teoscar Hernandez just keeps hitting home runs against the Yankees. I mean, it was awful, and then people just left very early, and I stayed through the whole thing because when you travel that far and you pay that much money, I don't care how bad it gets, I'm staying.
Right.
So I stayed for it all and saw Judge hit a home run with 2 outs in the ninth for his second of the night, and I'm like, well, at least I stayed.
Yeah. Yeah, Judge, we didn't talk about it just yet. Probably should spend a minute on here so we can do that quick. Absolutely torrid month of May for Aaron Judge, right? I mean, just scorched earth type stuff. And if you do projections, he's off to a better June than he was May, which is just incredible. He's on pace now to do what he did in 22, which is incredible. In my mind, it's quite the thing to witness. It really does make you wonder, and we mentioned a little bit about, like at the top, about the Juan Soto element being out against those games against the Dodgers, for example. But even still, Aaron Judge found a way in that series, and we've seen it, obviously through the first 3 games in Kansas City as well. At this point, I know we're only highlighting like 5 games here, kind of in a sense, 5, 6 games, but like I mentioned, this is now pretty much a month and a half of this pace, and it's been just an incredible thing to witness. It's kind of crazy because I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and you can correct me here, Kyle, but I feel like it's not actually being talked about a ton as it was like in 22. And maybe it's just because, I think maybe as baseball fans, we wait until we get through June, kind of like the de facto first half of the season's done before we notice it. But he's at 25 homers and 62 RBIs right now. And in my mind, 62 looks awful beatable, I think, for home runs again for him this season, at least to me anyway. I could be wrong, but that's the way it feels to me.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's possible. Obviously, you just worry that, he stays healthy, which, he did a great job of in the last few years. And people got to remember that a lot of his injuries, I mean, nothing you can do. He got hit by a pitch, like just stuff you can't avoid. He dove for a ball.
Right.
Like he's playing the game.
Yeah.
He's not just getting injured like Stanton, where he pulls his hamstring running.
He breathes.
Like you just don't see that from Judge. But yeah, it's been incredible to watch. I mean, over the last 30 games, a 429 batting average. I can't even do that on MLB The Show.
Right.
Like it's unreal. Like he's actually every night you just constantly see him getting hits off from some of the top pitchers in the league. Yamamoto, I was there Friday night, first inning, boom, 2-out double. Logan Webb, remember, takes him deep in the first inning a few weeks ago. Just so many top tier starting pitchers that like just makes it seem easy. And then people keep saying, "Well, the Yankees are off to such a great start. Let's see come October." And I'm just thinking like, well, this is a completely different team. Judge is obviously hitting some of the best pitchers, and you're going to face some of the best pitchers in the postseason. Why is that the first conclusion to everyone right now? Why can't the Yankees just enjoy their success?
Right.
And you know, when they get there, they get there. I do think this team, because of how balanced it is, lefty righty. I'm not joking. I think this is the best team I've seen since I've started watching baseball.
Yeah, I mean it's up there.
Best Yankees team, I should say.
I think it definitely has to rival it at minimum 2009.
Yeah.
That team. I think you can make the case. I've always made the case that I thought that 2013 team, I think it was, even without Mo, or no, it would have been 2012. Apologies, 2012. Even without Mo being the closer, being hurt, that team just ended up being bad luck with injury with Jeter in the playoffs and stuff like that. But like that team, I thought could have been better than '09, and it just didn't when it was all said and done. But this team has it, I think. As long as everything's still, breaks the right way and stuff like that, and the baseball gods appeased by it, right? Like I think that's there.
Yeah, if they stay healthy, I think they'll continue to roll. I mean, you look at since May 1st, they're 30-9, okay? So 9 losses. Only 4 of the 9 losses have only been by a run.
Yeah.
They don't get blown out ever.
Right, and that's
Besides for Saturday night.
right, and that's the thing you brought up, like with that Dodgers series, for example. Like Friday was like it could have gone either way. Really, to be fair.
And Saturday they were in the game for the first 6-7 innings, and the Dodgers scored 8 in the final 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they're never out of it. They're always in it, even when they lose. And in the 9th inning, they're always fighting. I mean, Judge hits a home run with 2 outs in the 9th in an 11-2 game. I mean, he could have just kind of quit. No, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, let's get to some injury stuff here and roster stuff. Begin with Garrett Cole, as we mentioned, making a third rehab start tomorrow on Friday with AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. And by the way, locally speaking, they are in Rochester for that game. Kyle, it's pretty funny. I want to set the backdrop here for this before I toss over to you. I'm at my baseball game last night on Wednesday night up in Rochester, and a couple of guys were talking about like, Cole reportedly is going to be doing it, but like nothing's been officially announced yet. I'm like, let me check something really quick. And lo and behold, I think it was pretty much 15 minutes right after you actually published officially that it was happening. I was able to relay the news to several happy members of the Pioneer baseball team. So Garrett Cole in Rochester Friday night, making that rehab start, has looked pretty good, all things considered, as I mentioned. A couple weeks ago, really, when he made his first of those rehab starts with Somerset. But we are in that final stage, I would say, at this point of him. It's interesting. I don't know how I view this. I would imagine he gets one more after this, but if he comes out and looks really good, I don't know if I'd be surprised if they just activated him at this point.
Yeah, my personal opinion is this will be his last one, and I think he'll be back for the Baltimore series at the stadium next week. He's probably only going to get the 70, 75 pitches, but Boone has said that they're okay with just, building him up at the big league level first, to get him up higher towards 100. So I think that's what they should do. I don't think they should send him on another AAA outing, unless I guess he gets really roughed up. But 1 run in 8 innings so far at AA. I know it's AA, but no walks is the key for me.
Right. That means he's spotting pretty well and everything like that. And look, this is a Rochester. We've talked a lot about this Rochester lineup this year, obviously, given that we talk about them on the podcast. But this will be a really good lineup for him to kind of gauge himself to, I think, to face off against. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow night here locally. Jason Dominguez activated off the IL, but option to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. The corresponding move also there. John Birdie transferred to the 60-day injured list, which was not surprising, obviously, to clear the spot on the 40-man for him. Dominguez has looked, again, really good in these rehab outings for him in these rehab games. And now the Yankees have a bit of a stash and play option with him at AAA as it stands right now. Interesting thing to note, and I don't know if the Yankees are intentionally doing it, but there is a service time thing kind of involved in this that I think, again, like I said, I don't think the Yankees are doing it, but it'd be something like he has to stay in AAA until like July 26th, and the Yankees have like another year of eligibility on him before arbitration and free agency and stuff like that. So either way, just something to keep an eye on there. But Dominguez back fully healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, I get everyone's point. They want to see him hit back to back with the Judge and Soto, which obviously I would want to see that too. But I mean, you're not just going to bench Verdugo,
right?
He's been pretty good for this team. Mm-hmm. And then I'm seeing people recently say that they should trade Verdugo at the deadline for a bullpen piece or an infielder, and then call him up. I'm not sure about that because Verdugo honestly has been a big reason. His energy alone too. It's been a huge difference maker, and his defense, his timely hitting. I don't know about that. As much as I'd want to see Dominguez, there's got to be another way to fit him in.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah. I don't know what it would fully look like right now. I do agree with you though. I think trading Verdugo would not be the right way to go about it.
And he's been in the postseason a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's beyond the vibe stuff. I mean, he's just played so well for the most part that I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those deals where we kind of mentioned with the Peraza a little bit, like maybe it's just a AAA year for him and just to keep the reps up and they kind of reassess into next year.
Well, we know a Stanton injury's coming.
Well, right.
I mean, when has he not had an injury in a season? Fair. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
And I think I'd rather take Dominguez's bat over Stanton's, despite his 17 home runs. Because before the series, he was 10 for 60.
Yeah.
And striking out left and right. I don't know. As much as Stanton seems to look better, I don't really buy the whole, can he really keep this up? It's 70 games in.
Yeah. Let's touch on a couple other guys here. Scott Efros threw a live session on Tuesday, and it went really well per Aaron Boone. JT Brubaker getting ready to go on a rehab assignment as well per Aaron Boone. Again, we mentioned Brubaker a little bit a few weeks ago. Not too sure how he really fits into this whole plan, but Efros, a guy that we have now been waiting on for the better part of pretty much, give or take a year to kind of get some traction going with him in these rehab stuff. So hopefully that'd be pretty big. And, to be fair, if he comes out and looks really good, maybe that's the bullpen kind of piece that the Yankees look for at the deadline, kind of a de facto thing there. Mentioned Kyle already. Dennis Santana was designated for assignment, claimed by Pittsburgh earlier this week, and Jose Rojas was signed to a minor league deal, infield depth piece for the Yankees. Last played in the big leagues with Anaheim or the Angels in 2022. So a couple stuff there. Anything jumping out from that side of things for you?
Just that Dennis Santana spring training was too good to be true.
Yeah.
And if you look at all his previous MLB seasons, he's never had below a 5 ERA. Mm-hmm. So he's that kind of pitcher. But watch, somehow, some way with the Pirates, he'll post like a 2-point-something ERA. Because that's just how it seems to go with former Yankees. Yeah. They do so well.
That's true. All right, the Yankees, we kind of already mentioned it. They're looking for a 4-game sweep against Kansas City today, then heading to Boston for 3 games this weekend. Off day on Monday, and then returning home against the Orioles midweek next week. Pretty big week, actually, for the Yankees next week. We'll talk more on that next week, but then you got the Braves coming in for a weekend series on the heels of Baltimore, so big stuff for the Yankees here coming up in the next 10 or so days. I think they get it done this 4-game sweep, which is a rarity for me to say against Kansas City.
Oh, with that bomb on the mound today.
Oh boy,
I don't
easy,
know.
easy, Kyle. And then, this has been one of those weird Boston teams where they've looked really good sometimes and really bad other times. I think the Yankees get it done though in Boston as well. And then we move into next week against Baltimore. Huge, pivotal series, as we know. The Yankees and them still separated by 2.5 in the standings as it stands right now. So that's a pretty big series in the Bronx Tuesday through Thursday next week.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I don't think they're sweeping today. I'm
Okay.
serious. Nestor Cortez is that bad on the road. 6.17 ERA compared to a 1.77 at home. I think they'll score some runs today, but I think Cortez will be that bad where it'll be uncontrollable. So then we'll go and say that they'll sweep Boston. And Baltimore, they got to get 2 of 3. They can't lose another series to Baltimore because then we're going to get people really talking. Are the Yankees for real? They lost to the Orioles twice, the Dodgers. And then if Garrett Cole's line up in one of those starts, you got to get that game. Yeah, and then the Braves, 5 straight losses for the first time since 2017. Just a completely different team without Acuna. I don't know. It's too far out. 2 of 3?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll focus more on that one next week at the very least. So
Yeah.
let's get to the Mets here. Mentioned at the jump, playing above 500 ball. It's 1 game above 500 ball in June at 5-4. Began the month splitting with Arizona. That series 2-2, and since then have swept Washington. Now in the middle of they're looking to try and get a series against the Marlins here. Split with the Phillies in London. It's been an interesting few days for the Mets here. It's pretty interesting. To me anyway, looks like they've done a little bit better since the Jorge Lopez incident. Something clearly I think maybe triggered in a way here, and the Mets have looked a little bit better. They appear to be enjoying themselves a little bit more. I don't know if that's the right way to kind of call it, but there's a bit of looseness now with them that they didn't quite show before, I don't think. And it's just one of those things where, like, I don't know if a singular guy involving this team here at this point was the issue, right? But something clearly happened that day in May, and since then it's been a different outlook. It's been a different team. And I go back to this. I don't know if that's going to be the deal in the long run here. I mean, they're 16 games out of the division even as it stands right now. But it's one of those things where it makes you wonder kind of like if that's all it took for the Mets, like I kind of feel like they should have just had their ass in gear weeks before, not 2 weeks ago, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, obviously, yeah, they are playing better than they were, but I think the teams factor into this a little bit. They played some tough teams in May. I mean, they've faced the Guardians, Giants, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Braves. I mean, that's a tough month. And now they're playing the Nationals, who, yeah, they're a decent team, but they're not obviously a top tier team. And then the Marlins certainly aren't that good. That's why they put up 10 on them last night. I don't know. And the Phillies game they stole. Jose Alvarado was just throwing the ball everywhere. They were losing the whole game. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes. They should win the series against the Marlins, but then how are they going to do against the Padres, Rangers, and Cubs, and then Yankees, and then Astros?
Yeah.
So I'll give it some more time before I think something has changed.
Right. I think that's a key thing with them, right? Is like I don't know if these 2 weeks are the right sample size. It's just one of those kind of like observations I've taken from 10,000 feet, right? Where it's like something's a little bit different here in a positive way. That being said, I still go back to something I said, the last podcast after the Jose Lopez incident. You want me to jump off the bridge? I have. I still don't know what the path is for this Mets team this year in that sense, right? It's more or less a washed year at this point. You have to kind of move on and figure it out. And again, I go back to this. They got some talent on that team. I guarantee there's going to be some phone calls, right, to Stearns about like, oh, what do you want for Save Marte? What's the going rate on, I don't know, like a David Peterson, for example. Guys like that. So I don't know. There's going to be some assessments here the next week, 2 weeks, as you mentioned, Kyle. Right, that's another tougher stretch in that schedule coming up here. That there's no breaks, there's no escape from. What are they going to do? Who knows? But it will be interesting to keep an eye on, for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that Jeff Passan was on talking baseball yesterday, and I don't know what he knows, but it's kind of weird that he asked Talking Jake, how would you feel with Pete Alonso being traded to the Yankees? I know it's just speculation, and I don't think they would trade with their crosstown rivals.
Right.
But why would Jeff Passan, out of nowhere, bring that up? Clearly, he's probably heard that, obviously, the Mets are shopping Pete Alonso, and I do think they should trade him.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it'll be the Yankees, and this was only brought up because of Rizzo's struggles. He's 1 for 40 in June. Hasn't been the same since concussion. Has been a worse hitter than Jose Abreu since last May.
Ooh.
Yeah, in every offensive category. Has no power. Leads first baseman in errors. Made another one last night. I do think they should maybe upgrade at first base if Rizzo does not start hitting by the deadline. Would I love Pete Alonso? Yes. I mean, imagine that lineup. That's insane.
The weird part is I don't know where Pete would necessarily fit though. Like he better
Rizzo would be benched.
Well, no, he better be ready to be batting sixth type thing.
Oh, well, yeah, then he's got to grow up and realize that
Right.
this team is good, and
Yeah.
let's just hit six. I'm just bringing it up because why did Jeff Passan bring that up? That's so weird. He's a reporter, and he's bringing up Pete Alonso to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Maybe the Yankees have at least made a call if what he's heard.
Yeah, I mean, my main thing with that is, and I've been on here saying like the prospect thing is BS, right? But like the Yankees have kind of already did a mortgage plan on Soto. I don't know if they'll be willing to do a second mortgage plan on Alonso. You know what I mean? That's part of it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Pete Alonso thing has been baffling to me now for a couple years, and a lot of this I go back to, I believe, it's the contract stuff. He's a Boris client. There's a lot of justifiable backlash going on right now against Boris. You look at the four he had this offseason, and none of them have really done anything great. Matt Chapman, I think, had a week, and that was about it. And other than that, Montgomery's the poster child of it. I mean, he literally dumped Boris and has said this whole deal has kind of cost him at this point. So I don't know. I don't know if you're the Yankees, or I guess really any outright contending team right now, I don't know if Pete Alonso's the right move. I have reservations. He hasn't looked as great to me as he could be, and I think the contract stuff is at play. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the right move for many contending teams right now.
Yeah. I think, like I said, if Rizzo goes another month and just doesn't hit,
Yeah.
this will be such a long sample size that I just don't think you can continue to run him out there. He's giving you no production whatsoever. And I do think, like, you have Juan Soto, and, you don't know if you're going to resign him. You have to be aggressive at the deadline. And I think, like I said, if Rizzo doesn't hit, they have to make a move. And another guy that I wouldn't mind, because they keep losing. I don't know if they're ever going to get on track. The rental, Christian Walker. Imagine him.
Yeah. I mean, from the Yankees' perspective, I'd be more comfortable with him than Alonso.
And cheaper, probably.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. One last thing here with the Mets before we get to some injury updates and roster updates. Carlos Mendoza kind of has tweaked the lineup here in the past few days. Mainly, you saw Harrison Bader in the 2 spot yesterday and Alonso back in the cleanup spot. He said it was more of a matchup thing, but like that was a really good lineup, I thought, yesterday. You had Bader in there. up high. You had Alonso back in a more comfortable spot. Tyrone Taylor's actually had a really good June as well, and he found himself in the lineup again yesterday. It's kind of an interesting deal. Again, I think it might be a little bit of a too little, too late scenario, despite being mid-June, really, I guess, to be fair at this point. But like, this is a lineup I think the Mets need to maybe try again here more oftentimes than not. Maybe it's more of that protection, quote unquote, of Alonso, right, behind and in that cleanup spot. I don't know, but like whatever has been working with these little lineup tweaks here recently, it's been working for the most part. It goes back to something, Kyle, I think we talked about at the end of April, right? Like, why not give these guys who clearly have been batting well enough more opportunity? And when they are out there and they prove it, they're showing it.
Yeah, Harrison Bader homers yesterday. Like you said, moved up in the lineup. Tyrone Taylor, a 4-hit game. I mean, that might be his first. I didn't look into the details. Yeah, guys that have performed when they've had playing time, they should now start every single day.
Yep.
Until they just don't hit anymore. Yeah. And Jeff McNeil, I mean, he has been one of the worst hitters on the team, and he just won the batting title 2 years ago. I don't know what to do. He went 0 for 4. He was the only guy that didn't have a hit last night. Out of 14 hits, he had 2 strikeouts. Obviously, the Marlins pitching staff is not good. So it's just so odd to see a guy that won the batting title struggle like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild because, I mean, at least the Bader spot in the lineup yesterday was Brandon Nimmo's, and Nimmo's also had a pretty rough June. It's been a rough year, but, there's been a couple rough spots for the Mets, obviously, with Nimmo and McNeil. And something I go back to is I think we're having a different discussion, in all honesty, at this point, if Mauricio doesn't get hurt or if Beatty doesn't just cool off the way he did. And, I don't... they don't run with Joey Wendell for a month of the season, I think we're talking different scenarios than we are right now with them. I really do. Speaking of guys like that, let's jump into some injury updates here. Edwin Diaz expected to be activated off the injured list today on Thursday and then return right to the closer role. Again, I go back to something we talked about when we last spoke, Kyle, right, where it's like kind of coincidental. I don't doubt that there's a health thing there, but I kind of wondered if it was part physical and part mental. And, no rehab, no nothing like that. He's going to jump right back in. Kind of makes me go back to what we were talking about a couple Thursdays ago involving Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, well, I guess the good thing for Edwin is he might not have that many save opportunities. This team just, how many times do they really have a lead in the ninth? Right. They're constantly trailing and coming back. I know he has blown games when they have had leads, but I don't know. The guy's got to figure it out. I mean, you can't just keep throwing out Adam Ottavino in the closer's role. The guy can't hold on a runner. Right. If one guy gets on, they're swiping second easily. Yeah. That's why he's done so bad.
Yeah. And the other people they've ran with, whether it be like Reed Garrett, for example, just haven't produced, to put it bluntly. Top prospect for the Mets, Jet Williams. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but he underwent surgery on his right wrist. The injury just would not kind of heal on its own. So surgery happened on June 6th. He'll miss 8 to 10 weeks and expect him back sometime in August for minor league stuff.
One side note, I don't understand the whole resting Stanton.
We have a lineup thing, huh?
So let's set the stage here. He gets the series opener off with Judge and with Rizzo. They win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Plays the next 2 nights. Homers back-to-back nights. Has a 2-hit night last night. And then he can't play the series finale today? I mean, how much rest does this guy need? He doesn't freaking play the field.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now hitting after a 10 for 60 slump and he's resting. I don't understand this. I get that the Yankees are the best team in the league right now. Mm-hmm. But why are they doing this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are they okay now? Are they going to start turning the corner where last year, they take the first 3 games of a series, they're okay with losing the 4th? Like, you put in your hot hitter, and he's been hot the last 2 nights. Yeah. I don't understand it.
And so we get Trent Grisham in there. Okay, nice. Anyway, speaking of, Kodai Senga threw a second bullpen session yesterday on Wednesday and was smiling per Carlos Mendoza, a.k.a. everything looks good there. Expect to have 2 more bullpen sessions before facing live hitting. Senga had an interview a few days ago and kind of said, this has just been tough on him. He hates the fact that he is not in the rotation and not, being, frankly, in the news for the right reasons for the Mets right now. And I understand where he's coming from with that, and I get it, but, more than anything, I think it's positive that we are seeing progression, albeit, like he said, probably not the way that he even wanted to or people expected him to, but, it's there, and we might be getting some Kodai Senga big league pitching after all this year at this point.
Yeah, it's only taken 3.5 months, probably another month to go. Just shut them down.
Yeah.
Don't waste them in a terrible season.
Yeah. Brett Beatty option, then recalled, and then option back to Syracuse. I actually was watching a little bit of their game yesterday. It looked really good in his at-bats. His fielding, though, actually was the weird spot yesterday. But here nor there on this one. Francisco Alvarez activated from the IL and Tomas Nido designated for assignment. So be interesting to kind of see how everything shakes out there. The Mets, as we mentioned, look to take the series against Miami today on Thursday, and then the Padres come in for the weekend. Then the Mets are off to Texas for a road trip. Then they're off on Thursday of next week before continuing a quasi-West Coast trip. I look for the Mets to take this series against Miami, Kyle. I kind of like their prospects and chances on that one. It's the Padres series where it gets sideways for me, and then I don't know what to make of Texas at this point. There's only one team above 500 in the AL West right now, and the Seattle Mariners, so I don't know what the hell is going on there, but either way, I would imagine on paper the Mets probably don't have a really great chance against Texas either the next week, to be completely honest. But baseball could be wrong, but that's just me reading those tea leaves, I suppose, at this point.
Yeah, they definitely should sweep today, but every time we say they should, they don't win. So,
well, it wouldn't be a sweep anyway.
Or win the series. Sorry, I'm thinking the Yankees right now. Yeah, the Rangers are going to be tough. They've been definitely underperforming. Their hitting has been crazy, not good, weird. And obviously, they're going to get some pretty good pitchers back soon, so watch out. I think everyone's sleeping on the Rangers, and they're talking about the Mariners, so the Mariners can't hit. They're squeaking out wins. The Guardians don't have enough pitching to last the whole season, so they're going to wear out. And, I mean, I don't think the Guardians' offense is going to keep putting up the type of numbers they are either. We're 70 games in. There's 162. They're going to fall off. They don't have a Yankees lineup. They don't have a Dodgers lineup. They're not going to make it far. And the AL Central, every single season, is the first division out. They're a joke.
Yeesh.
The Yankees, have you seen their record since 2015 against the Royals? It's 40 and 13.
But yeah.
And they're 83 and 22 against AL Central since 2017. Does the AL Central even try? I'm dead serious.
I can tell you one team for sure that's not trying, and that's the White Sox. But
I mean, it's bad. Yeah, so I just think the overhype with the Guardians, they're not that good. They were better in 2017. Yeah. The Yankees beat them.
Sure.
They're trailing 2-0.
Yeah.
So, sorry to go on a little rant, but we're back.
I don't know where you were going on that one, but
we're back. Just thinking about the top teams in the league, and I think the Rangers are going to be one of them at the end of the year, and everyone's going to think back to this moment when a lot of people are like, wow, the Rangers just aren't good.
Yeah.
No, they're good. Watch out.
No, I don't doubt it. It's just one of those things where it's really weird how out of the gate they've just been underwhelming, to say the least. All right, let's get to Rochester and Syracuse here quickly. Red Wings sitting tied fourth in the International League East at 32 and 31, 11 games back. They're pretty much out of it, obviously, for the first half of things here in the IL. They're hosting Scranton this week, as we mentioned. Then they head to Syracuse next week for a battle of the Thruway Cup. Luke Farrell on a rehab assignment with the Florida Gulf Coast League Nationals. And Trey Lipscomb, the third baseman, was recalled by Washington for the Syracuse Mets. They are certainly having a season, as we've mentioned. They're 39-25, second in the International League East, a half game back of those Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, but unfortunately for them, they're 4.5 games back of Omaha in the International League general standings, which is how you secure that first half lockup of a playoff spot. Not looking great here as we enter the final stretch of games for that, but you never know. Mets hosting Lehigh Valley this week. As we mentioned, hosting Rochester next week. Ben Gamble activated off the injured list, as was catcher Austin Allen. Bryce Montesteoka, good to see this. He's on a rehab assignment with Single A St. Lucie. And then, Kyle, I have some disappointing news to report with Syracuse. G-Man Choi was granted his release from the team at the start of the month.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame him. He wants a big league opportunity, but he also doesn't hit. I remember looking at his stats one time. I'm not going to do it right now, but he was like a 190 hitter, career hitter, and it's just he had that one good year in Tampa, and then it's like, oh, now we know you, but now you're going to be bad.
He's a vibes guy more than anything else.
It's crazy that he was a Yankee and he hit a couple home runs.
Scranton legend.
Yeah.
So that will do it for Concrete Jungle for this week. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Back at it again next week. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how this weekend and the week of games goes next week. Hopefully everything remains on the up and up for our teams here. So, Kyle Evans, Paul Russo, we're going to sign off on this point. We'll chat again next week, everybody.